Mark Rogers TV with you once again. Week one of our college football picks for 2013. Just about 57-58% against the spread last season. About 82% straight up. We'll have to double check those numbers. We've got them on record. Certainly check out our website, MarkRogersTV.com, where we will have all our predictions and the results of our predictions. And then we will fill in the track record over the last, I don't want to give away my age, number of years. So this is week one. Didn't post a video for Thursday and Friday night's games, but they were posted on our website, and I wish they weren't posted. Yeah, we went 5-0 straight up, but the games were fairly easy straight up. Against the spread, Vandy let us down, plus 3.5. They lost by 4 in gut-wrenching fashion. And of course, USC, laying 21, had the 30-5 lead and blew that with a late touchdown. Garbage. But we will not cry away those games. We will look ahead to Saturday and keep in mind that our confidence picks against the spread, 46-21 over the last two seasons, 25-12 last season. Pretty good. Okay, let's run them down and keep in mind that our percentage is much higher in the closer games, meaning those games that are 20-plus point spreads, 3 touchdowns and more. We've gone through the research, we've gone through our track record, and our percentage goes way down in those games. First of all, you don't know who's going to be on the field in the fourth quarter. You don't know how hard they're going to be trying, and you don't know what the coach is going to do in terms of game and play calling. So that's the big key there. So let's run down the games, and let's start with Wisconsin and UMass. The Badgers with Coach Gary Anderson in his debut, a big 45-point favorite. We'll take the Minutemen, and just any time we get plus 40 points, it's difficult to take anybody but somebody like Oregon. So no Russell Wilson when they were ringing up 70 and 75 points against the lesser teams on the schedule. So we'll take UMass plus the 45 points. Badgers, of course, win the football game. Michigan, Central Michigan, staying in the Big Ten. Michigan started out as a 28-point favorite. That would have been the time to make that play. They're now up to a 31-point favorite. Still, we take the Wolverines to cover the 31 against Central Michigan at the Big House. Ohio State and Buffalo as the Buckeyes try to make a bid for the BCS championship. It starts against Buffalo in Columbus. Ohio State, a 34.5-point favorite. We hate that point spread, but the Buckeyes will cover 34.5 points against Buffalo. Notre Dame Temple. Okay, the Owls have been scrappy in recent years, even though Al Golden is no longer there. Notre Dame at home, we expect to not struggle, but they will win the football game. But we think 30 points is too high, like the Owls plus the 30 there. Alabama, Virginia Tech. This one opened around 18. It's up to 20. Virginia Tech has been ravaged by injuries, suspensions, and all sorts of misfortunes. Bama, we've got at a 19.5 to 20-point favorite, and they will cover this game. Look for like a 38-10 to 41-10 type game. Bama takes control over Virginia Tech. Nice football game at Oklahoma State with the Cowboys at Stillwater hosting Mississippi State out of the SEC. The Bulldogs coming off an 8-5 season, a 12.5-point underdog to the 13th-ranked Cowboys. We think Mississippi State, with a hustling defense and with the ground game of Ladarius Perkins, keeps it close. Oklahoma State wins at home. Mississippi State covers 12.5 points. Oklahoma, Louisiana-Monroe. Louisiana-Monroe has certainly made it difficult on a lot of big boys in the SEC in recent years. They go to Oklahoma. Sooners with a new quarterback starting, the redshirt freshman, and with Blake Bell in reserve as well. He will probably see some time. We like Oklahoma in a close football game. So we think it's going to be close in terms of competitive, but Oklahoma pulls away late and covers 22 points against Louisiana-Monroe. Texas and New Mexico State. Longhorns should rout New Mexico State. But again, the Texas passing game has been less than prolific in recent years. David Ash has something to prove. New Mexico State gets 44 points here. I hate picking these games, but I got to. I go through all the top 25 games. So we take New Mexico State plus the 44. Of course, Texas wins at home. Texas A&M-Rice. Of course, the Johnny football game where he misses the first half will play the second half if they need him. And I'm sure he will play the second half regardless of the score. So Texas A&M is a 28-point favorite against Rice. We expect Texas A&M, regardless of who's at quarterback, and he's got a couple freshmen, redshirt freshmen, backing him up. So they could struggle at times against Rice and have difficulty scoring, but we like Texas A&M. If Manziel has to come in and throw 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to do it, to defeat Rice by more than 28 points. Nebraska-Wyoming, this spread has gone from 21 to 30 in a hurry. And the Cowboys and the Huskers have played in recent years, and Wyoming usually plays Nebraska close, relatively close. Have not scared the Huskers, but at the same time, we'd like Nebraska to win, but Wyoming plus the 30 points. Boise State-Washington. Man, Boise State plus 4 points? Yeah, got to take it even at Washington. So the Huskies don't win the game. We're picking our first technical upset here. Boise State plus the 4, and Boise State wins the game as well. UCLA and Nevada. We like Nevada plus the 21 at the Rose Bowl. UCLA wins the game. Nevada covers the 21. Intriguing game out west with Northwestern traveling all the way to the West Coast for one of the few times that we can think of. The Wildcats trying to up the ante in regards to a non-conference schedule. We've seen it in recent years, taking on Syracuse and Vanderbilt and some other decent teams out of conference. They do it here again against Cal, even though the Golden Bears were 3-9 last season. They gave the Buckeyes all they could handle in Columbus, and Cal expects to be much better this season. They will take on Ohio State at home in a few weeks. This time they get Northwestern. Big Ten teams, we know the story. Historically struggle on the West Coast, on the road, not necessarily against the Pac-12, that's a misnomer, but against the Pac-12 on the road. This is one of those cases. Northwestern is the much better football team, so they win it, but I like Cal to keep it very close. Cal plus the 6. Oregon-Nicholls State. Boy, do I hate this line. Hate to pick this game. Hate this to be on my record, but it is. Nicholls State plus 59 points. Oregon, could you please have some mercy in the fourth quarter? We take Oregon to win. Nicholls State plus the 59 points. Okay, on Sunday, we've got a... Whoa. Got to back up here because we tacked on the really important games at the end here. Okay, we do have Florida and Toledo. We know what the Gators do against non-conference competition in recent years under Will Muschamp, since the offense has been struggling and really didn't lay it on anyone despite a very successful season last year and finishing in the top 10 at 11-1 regular season. Florida defeats Toledo, of course. They should. Toledo plus the 24, though, like the Rockets with the points, as Florida rarely blows out anyone. And we've got to see it and have it proven to us that Jeff Driscoll and company can lay some heavy points on anyone. Florida wins, Toledo plus the 24. Penn State-Syracuse, not a top 25 game, but I thought I'd tack it on, make it difficult on myself because this is a tough one. Penn State's a better football team, but they've got a top 25 team on the depth chart for the starting team. The depth, of course, with the scholarship issues, very thin. You get to the second, third lines for Penn State. They've got special team play coming from walk-ons. They do have some issues at linebacker in terms of depth. Interesting season for Penn State, coming off what they were able to pull off last season, going 8-4 with the world against them. Penn State, we expect to go 7-5 this season and start out with a win at Syracuse, but we'd like the Orange under new head coach Scott Schaefer to keep it somewhat close. Syracuse plus 8.5. LSU-TCU, people waiting for this all over the place at Cowboys Stadium. LSU challenged in the vertical passing game, although we do like Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry. We have yet to see Zach Mettenberger on a consistent basis deliver the football despite the talent he has, and that's the reason he's the starting quarterback taken from the junior college ranks to LSU. So LSU is going to test the passing game. They take on one of the better defenses in the country traditionally in TCU, and the Horned Frogs bringing back so much talent on defense. Very youthful, fast defense. Devontae Fields, unfortunately, will not play in this game, suspended for the first 2 games. So obviously that's a factor. He would have been a menace to deal with on the outside, on the perimeter, the pass rush on this carpet. But he will not be there. Still, we like LSU to gut out a win with the ground game churning ahead, and of course the exceptional defense despite all the NFL losses from last season. LSU wins, TCU keeps it close, take the Horned Frogs plus the 5 points. Clemson, Georgia, game of the weekend. Wow. Georgia, 10 starters back on offense. Of course, Gurley and Marshall in the backfield. Gurley's a monster. Aaron Murray at quarterback, a Heisman Trophy candidate. Okay, they lost just Tavares King on the outside, otherwise loaded at wide receiver. Offensive line's back. That offensive line answered so many questions last year. They played really well. Georgia within 4 yards of a BCS national championship game. Clemson, the offense is there. No questions to answer there. Tosh Boyd's one of the best in the biz with the arm, with the legs. He's become a more polished passer. He's dropped some weight. He's worked on the technique. 36 touchdowns passing last year, 10 rushing. They've got weapons all over the place. Despite losing DeAndre Hopkins, that could hurt. He was a clutch hands receiver in the slot and on the outside. He was all over the place, and he was the guy that Boyd always looked to when he needed a big play. He takes 82 receptions and 18 touchdowns with him to the NFL. So Sammy Watkins is going to have to step in with the kind of play that he had as a freshman 2 years ago when he scored 14 touchdowns and caught 82 passes. It's up to the Clemson defense to show that the best in the ACC can step up and play with the best of the SEC, because in past years that has not happened. It did happen at the end of last year, though, in the Chick-fil-A Bowl when Clemson, again, probably the second best team in the ACC, took on LSU, who was probably the fourth best team, something in that range in the SEC, and eked out a win thanks to Les Miles' play calling and game management, 25-24. Okay, Clemson finally has to step up and play on defense. They brought in Brent Venables 2 years ago to coach the defense. Came from Oklahoma, where he won a national championship, founding that defense in the early 2000s. Okay, we like Clemson to win at home. This one's a difficult one in the gut because I usually lean on the SEC in the big games against the ACC. We see where SEC teams typically 2 and 3 and 4 rungs down are able to defeat higher ranked and higher finishing within the conference ACC teams. But we think the Bulldogs are just too young on defense to handle Tosh Boyd and company. We think the Clemson defense finally is learning to tackle and not blow coverages. We shall see. So we like Clemson, and we love those 2.5 points at home against Georgia. Okay, we move on to Sunday's play, Louisville and Ohio. Of course, this appears to be a mismatch, but the Bobcats, a fringe bowl team, they went to a bowl game last year. Frank Solich, an extremely good coach. Louisville, despite the record, despite the Heisman Trophy candidacy of Teddy Bridgewater, gave up tons of points and tons of yardage on defense last year. And, yeah, they're the class of the conference, and they're probably going to finish in the top 7 to top 10, but we don't think they're a top 10 football team if they played the big boys week in, week out. Meaning Ohio keeps it close within 20.5. Louisville wins the football game. And on Monday night, before the Monday Night Football starts with the pros, the next week we got Florida State taking on Pitt, welcoming the Pitt Panthers to the ACC. And Florida State, despite the freshman quarterback in place in Winston, he'll probably have to really feel his way into this game. So there could be some miscommunications and the typical jittery feet and jittery questionable play calling or play decision making on the field, I should say, from Winston. We will probably see that out of the quarterback. Florida State's loaded with talent. They have a much deeper talent pool than Pitt. They will wear on them physically up front. They've got playmakers all over the place. Although they've had some injuries, some key injuries just in the last few weeks, knocking out some players for the entire season. We like Florida State to not only win, but cover 10.5 points at Pitt. Our picks for week 1 of college football right here on Mark Rogers TV.